What was yesterday about, Tom? What was that about on McAfee's show with Rodgers? Your two
What's funny,
cents.
Rich, is you just phrased that question to me the same way, almost identically, that I phrased the question to Aaron, I believe it was 4 years ago when he came back to Green Bay and there had been the back and forth the entire offseason. I said, "What was this all about to you?" And he said that was a loaded question and then talked for about 20 minutes about it. With Aaron, I think I was struck by this. Obviously, he has a long history with Pat, and he's used that venue in the past to make various announcements. I was struck by the fact that back in March of 2023, it was, I believe, March 15th, Aaron went on the Pat McAfee show, and when he was asked about his future, he made clear, he said, "I told everybody my intention is to play for the New York Jets." And from that point forward, the intentions were set. That's where everything was headed. It ended up taking until 1 year ago Monday, the Monday of draft week, for the Jets to actually work out the trade with the Packers. But from that point forward, we knew where he was going. Fast forward to April 17th, 2025. And if I'm the Steelers listening, yeah, of course, they'd love to have a decision. They would love to have a decision 3, 4 weeks ago after Rodgers visited, after Art Rooney said, "Hey, we're willing to wait a little while longer for him." But if I'm the Steelers hearing what Rodgers said yesterday, it's not so much that he doesn't have a decision. It's that nothing that Aaron Rodgers said indicated that there's any decision coming anytime soon. He's certainly earned a certain right to dictate things on his own terms and to take his time. You don't want anybody to commit if they're not going to be all in on this. But, April 18th, even for a guy who came up under Brett Favre and, for the final 6, 7, 8 years of Brett Favre's career, he took his sweet time in the offseason pondering things. But for Aaron to be sitting there talking about the potential of retirement, and not even when directly asked, "Are you going to play for the Steelers if you play?" and saying, "Oh, I'm attached to nothing and open to everything," or whatever exactly the line was. If I'm the Steelers, I'm going, all right, we absolutely have to plan now as if this guy is not going to be there. And the next question then, Rich, becomes, at what point do the Steelers overtly or covertly send a very clear message to Aaron that, the train's leaving the station here?
Okay, because I definitely, Rodgers has a LeBron way about him. And by that, I also mean fans always view what he's saying as performative. I honestly, watching what happened yesterday, I didn't feel that is performative at all. That he legitimately is now a 41-year-old guy looking at the Pacific Ocean with a lot of stuff going on and isn't ready to tell the Steelers one thing or another and willing to risk no longer playing football with a team that has a playoff chance, let alone maybe a Super Bowl chance. And that's what I got. And that if the Steelers go through the draft and still need him, then they haven't lost his number to the point where he's going to let him know that I'm ready. And that's the same thing with anybody that might need a quarterback in the future. So my question for you would be, because I take a look at the free agents that are still around. I mean, that pool is pretty much dried. What about Kirk Cousins? How does this loom on all of this right now, Tom?
Kirk Cousins' situation continues to loom. The next real checkpoint on that is going to be the draft. I would not anticipate that Kirk Cousins would waive his no trade clause to go anywhere until at least Friday, probably Saturday of draft week, just to avoid a similar situation to what he had a year ago. But I would tell you, Rich, from talking to a number of different people, I don't get the sense that the Falcons are displaying any level of urgency about making a move. They're not, intentionally, deliberately making any types of calls, trying to shop Kirk Cousins. They're not pushing forward and saying, "Hey, you know what? We will eat a lot of the money here." To this point, they've wanted a new team to pick up a good chunk of that $27.5 million that Cousins is fully guaranteed this season, on top of the $10 million guarantee in 2026 that's subject to offsets, and give up a mid-round pick. And again, it's not even as if they're like shopping this and trying to bring it to a head. There's still time. They could do that next week. That's when a lot of the trade calls take place. But from the moment that the Browns signed Joe Flacco, and we talked about this when I was out there with the boys last week hosting the show, the Browns signing Flacco was also an indication that they don't see any urgency that the Falcons are actually going to trade Kirk Cousins. If that changes, if that evolves, if the Falcons are willing to be, for lack of a better term, more reasonable in terms of what they're asking for Cousins, the Steelers would be a logical spot. But there also still is that looming possibility of the Steelers either drafting somebody in round one or just saying we're going to roll with Mason Rudolph, maybe draft somebody later in the draft, and then see if Aaron's still hanging around come summer. It's a very unusual type of a situation. They are at number 21, where depending how some things fall up at the top of the draft, there's certainly going to be one quarterback on because Cam Ward remains the presumptive number one overall pick. But Jackson Dart, we'll see if he's off the board. Is Shedeur Sanders, who just took a visit to Pittsburgh, was pretty effusive about what he felt about that organization. Mike Tomlin, is he still on the board? Where does Jalen Milroe fit in all this? Where does Tyler Shuck fit in all this? You got 5 quarterbacks, one who's definitely going to go, and 4 that could go, could not. There's a lot of different moving parts here, but the one that doesn't appear to be moving is the guy that close to a month ago now, when he snuck into the Steelers headquarters driving a Honda rental car, it seemed like that was coming to a point where he was going to make a decision, and it's now apparent that Rodgers, he's going to make a decision at some point in time, but he doesn't sound like he's anywhere close.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.